My name's Pete Wong and I'm a Labour Councillor for an area called Roath in Cardiff. I was born in Mongkok in Hong Kong. I was born abroad, but I came over when I was 1 year old. We came here extremely poor. My parents were economic migrants. My dad was a chef. My mum worked in a production factory in Ipswich, and we lived in one bedroom in a shared house, all five of us growing up. But again, that's only hindsight. When it's happening to you, when you're growing up, you don't understand that you're poor until you think it's normal, until you see how other people live. And then we moved to living above a Chinese takeaway, and that brings in itself a kind of shared community of experience of people who my parents worked themselves to the bone on a daily basis to make that business success and to provide for us. When you own a shop, particularly a Chinese takeaway, there were experiences such as people, and even despite the fact that we closed at midnight, there would be drunk people knocking on the door way past that, shouting, demanding to be served, even though we were closed. So those were kind of parts of that negative experience of growing up in a takeaway. I joined the Labour Party when I was 15, and at the time, when I mentioned to my parents I was going to go to a Labour Party meeting, they were less than pleased, and they didn't want me to go. And part of that again is because they didn't. I'm not sure whether they imagined I'd be chaining myself to railings or whatever, but they didn't want me to engage in something that would stand out. It was important that for us as a family that we went to university, we led good lives, that we didn't get ourselves involved in controversial stuff, and it's that fear, isn't it? As an immigrant, it's that constant fear that at some point you could get thrown out of the country. But now my parents, obviously after many years, they put Labour posters up in their windows during election time. They're now accustomed to me being in politics. I think being the only Chinese councillor from 22 local authorities in Wales isn't an achievement. It's a recognition that there's something wrong with the system, and it's a core that we need to do a lot more to engage the community. And I think it's important that the Chinese experience, the East Asian experience in Wales is recorded through oral history, through other means, because there's been a total absence of that in the history of Wales. And I think if you look at things like the 1911 riots in Cardiff, where as part of those riots, every single Chinese business in Cardiff was smashed up. That's completely unknown compared to the 1919 riots, and I think that kind of feeds into what we said before, that the kind of anti-Chinese sentiment isn't taken seriously enough, because the Chinese community isn't seen as isn't taken seriously, and I think it's critically important that we recognise the contribution Chinese people have made, no matter how small, that we aren't just non-people written out of history.